I want to share something with you about self-discipline. This is something that a lot of people do not understand. And I think it's a big reason that a lot of people are not winning, is because they're trying to muster up self-discipline. And self-discipline is required for you to be successful. And so a lot of us think that people are just naturally self-disciplined, and that's why they're getting results. That's why they're getting success. But there's a little secret about self-discipline. And a lot of the top achievers, a lot of the most successful people in the world, they understand this secret about self-discipline. And it's this, that you will never be able to muster up enough self-discipline just in and of itself to get the results that you want to get. Because if that's what you're focusing on is, I've got to be more disciplined, I got to be more disciplined, and you have all this effort towards that, you're putting all of your effort and all of your energy in the wrong place. Okay, here's the secret. You don't need more self-discipline. You don't need to focus on self-discipline. What you need to focus on is your vision. You need to focus on the goal. You need to focus on the dream. You see, because when the mind gets fixated on the dream, on the goal, on the vision, the destination, then the self-discipline to get there just shows up. You see, because you're so focused on where you're going that you wake up out of bed and you're so driven, you're so passionate, you can see the results of where you're going. You can see your vision, that you just wake up and you're ready to get it. You're ready to go after it. And you will naturally start to do the things that you need to do to be disciplined to get the job done, for you to climb that mountain. You know, they talk about people that have climbed Mount Everest. And if they say the people that make it to the top of Mount Everest are not the people that focus on how hard it's going to be. And they focus on how hard it's going to be to breathe and how dangerous it is and all of that and what's going to be required to overcome all of that. Now you have to pay attention to that stuff, but the people that make it consistently to the top of Mount Everest, and there's been blind people, there's been children, there's been very elderly people make it to the top of Mount Everest. And it's because they're focused on the top. That's all they're focused on is the destination. And usually they have a guide, a mentor, a Sherpa walking them along the way to deal with all the things of how to get there. So self-discipline is not this thing we just, again, muster up. It's focusing on where you're going, and it just shows up. So I want to tell you a story, and it's about two of the greatest explorers, okay, that ever lived. Meriwether Lewis and William Clark. Lewis and Clark. So these guys set out to explore the West when it was unknown. There was a lot of dangers. They were going to explore and see, how far can we go? Where does this lead to? And they were going to map it out on this huge expedition. What a lot of people don't know is that Meriwether Lewis was a very driven, disciplined person. Okay, and I mean, it was all about the adventure. It was all about, he was getting a get up and go and get after it type of person. But what you may not know about Meriwether Lewis is that when Lewis and Clark returned from their expedition, from going out west and mapping out and exploring the West all the way to the Pacific Ocean, and then came all the way back to the East Coast, is that literally within a matter of days of returning, Meriwether Lewis fell into a very deep depression. We're talking about a man that was so driven and focused and disciplined that fell into such a deep depression that he couldn't get out of bed. And the reason why is because all of his life, as long as he had a goal, as long as he had a vision for what's next and where I'm going, he was driven. But as soon as there was nothing in front of him to focus on, there was no mountain to climb, there was no goal to achieve, he would get depressed. And guys, I don't think that that's just someone that experiences depression. I think that's all of us. I think if you don't have a goal, if you don't have a vision, if you don't have something, a purpose that you're shooting for, you don't have a mountain that you're climbing, you're going to get depressed. And you're going to lack self-discipline. So Meriwether Lewis, within a matter of weeks of returning from one of the greatest expeditions ever, committed suicide at the age of 35 because he was so depressed. He had no vision. He had no goal for what's next after what he had just done. So there's several lessons that we can learn from Lewis and Clark. Number one, have a goal, have a vision, and get so focused on that the self-discipline just shows up. Because you're not focused on what you need to do. You're so focused on the goal. You're so focused on the vision that you will do whatever it takes. The next thing is this, is once you experience that success, once you achieve that goal, you better set a new one. You better look for the next mountain to climb, or else, you could wind up like Meriwether Lewis and get depressed and fall into a rut and slide back to mediocrity and average, when God created you to go from mountaintop to mountaintop and to continually be moving up to the next level.